If you've seen national news over the last month, then you must have heard of the one nation, one election concept that the government has been mooting for. So what exactly is one nation, one election? To break it down for you, the concept here refers to holding simultaneous polls across the country. In fact, the proposal is to conduct elections for Lok Sabha as well as the state assemblies all at the same time. In India, the general elections to elect the members of parliament and state assembly polls are all held separately when the tenure of the incumbent government comes to an end or when it gets dissolved for some reason. Now, the concept, however, does not encompass panchayat elections or state municipality elections and by-election. Notably, one nation, one election concept is certainly not new. It was already in practice until 1967. In fact, India has held simultaneous polls even before. General elections and elections to the state assemblies were held together in 1952, in 1957, in 1962 and in 1967. The inception of this concept. In 1983, the Election Commission of India, the ECI, had suggested simultaneous elections. In 2003, Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee took up the matter with the Congress President Sonia Gandhi. However, there wasn't much headway there. Then later in 2010, L.K. Advani said that he had already discussed the matter with Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. And over the years, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been the one advocating and pushing for this idea of simultaneous Lok Sabha and state assembly polls. It was also one of the components of the BJP's election manifesto for 2014 Lok Sabha elections. Now, the pros and cons to it. Supporters of the one nation, one election often underline that once implemented, it would bring down the overall expenditure on the electoral process. As per reports, a whopping 60,000 crores was spent on the previous 2019 Lok Sabha elections. Now, simultaneous elections is also likely to boost voter turnout, making it quite convenient for the electorate to cast ballot at once. Another argument here favoring the simultaneous polls concept is that it will lead to a more efficient administration. During elections, the entire state machinery focuses on conducting a free and fair electoral process, which finally impacts the everyday administration because officials are, of course, engaged in polling duties. Now, the idea of one nation, one election is expected to bring consistency and continuity in policies as well as programs of the government. Now, the cons to it. This exercise is easier said than done. Holding just one mega election would be too complex an exercise in a huge and a diverse country like ours, India. The biggest challenge, of course, in the way of the one nation, one election is to sync the terms of the various state assemblies with those of Lok Sabha. The plan raises, of course, serious questions here. What would happen if the central or state government collapses mid-tenure? Would elections be held again in every state, or will there be precedence rule that will be imposed? The idea of one nation, one election does not square with the concept of federalism, as it is established on the notion that the entire nation is one, contradicting the content of Article 1, which envisages India as a union of states. Additionally, there is worry that regional issues might just get overshadowed. It may be just sidelined by national issues affecting the electoral outcome at the state level. Also, regional parties would in fact not be able to compete hard enough with national parties when it comes to election expenditure and strategy. A 2015 study by the IDFC Institute found a 77% chance that the winning political parties or alliance will win both the Lok Sabha and the assembly elections in the state when held together. Constitutional amendments. The Constitution also fundamentally does not allow simultaneous polls. 5 articles in the Constitution and the Representation of People's Act 1951 would have to be amended, and for this, every recognized state and national party would have to agree to this very change. For a constitutional amendment, 2/3 members of the House must be present for vote. A consensus of all political parties and state governments is, of course, needed. After the constitutional amendment bill is passed in the parliament, it then needs to be ratified by half the states in India through resolutions in their various assemblies.